Morning. Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, calling to order the January 2024 meeting of the IHCDA Board of Directors. We are meeting pursuant to this board's policy for participation by members of the IHCDA in board meetings by simultaneous electronic. This means that only 3 members must be physically present at the site of the meeting and the remaining members may call in. There will be an audio feed for the general public so that members of the public can listen to the meeting. There will be a link to a video recording posted on IHCDA's website next month. The time the motions are being made, each board member that makes a motion must state his or her first and last name for the record. The votes will then be tallied by roll call. Take a roll call of the board members to confirm members who are present and their location. Again, I am Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, present in the room. Mark Pascarella, designee for State Public Finance Director Dan Hughey.
Present and in the room.
Michael Neal, designee for Treasurer of State Daniel Elliott.
Present in the room.
Board Member G. Michael Schopmeyer.
Present virtual in Evansville, Indiana.
Thank you. Board Member Andy Place Sr. He's dropped off. Okay. Check back later. Board Member Chad Greiwe.
Present and in the room.
Board Member Tom McGowan.
Present.
Great. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 21st, 2023 board meeting. They've all been provided to the board. Does anyone have any changes or corrections?
Madam Chair, Michael Neal, move to approve.
Approved. Do we have a second?
Mark Pascarella, second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. I will now call the roll. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Michael Neal.
Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer.
Aye.
Andy Place. Still not here. Chad Greiwe.
Aye.
Tom McGowan.
Aye.
And Valentine votes aye. Motion carries. Please welcome Rachel Sample, who will present the fiscal year 2022 Domestic Violence Coordinated Entry Sub-Recipient Funding.
Oh, good morning, board.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me today to talk about the Domestic Violence Coordinated Entry Subrecipient Funding from the fiscal year 2022 Continuum of Care Program. This year, we're here to present this Domestic Violence Coordinated Entry Subrecipient Funding to 15 of the regions in the Indiana Balance of State. We went through a process this year, essentially to a new process for us, actually, to subrecipient out this funding to all but one region in the Balance of State of Indiana to help leverage coordinated entry dollars with domestic violence coordinated entry dollars to serve survivors of domestic violence across the state. We came about this process by essentially evaluating our past year's performance on the grant and looking at opportunities to increase utilization by increasing the number of subrecipients on the award and using information from our recent coordinated entry evaluation to create a set of deliverables that will be expected of agencies that are receiving this funding. Again, this funding will be leveraged with additional funds that the board has already approved through a previous allocation plan, and it will be serving 15 regions across the balance of state. Domestic violence coordinated entry funding can provide supportive services dollars to DV survivors across the state with assistance with things like transportation, case management services, housing search and placement, and of course, evaluation of their services needs. One of our regions, Region 4, receives a dedicated coordinated entry award already, so that region has been determined to be ineligible to receive this additional funding. Given the limited amount of funds that the award has, we were trying to maximize our impact with DV coordinated entry dollars. Our key performance indicators for this funding will be examining the participants, essentially their evaluation of coordinated entry and their use of coordinated entry to serve survivors. We look at the number of assessments that have been completed in a region, the length of time individuals are waiting for a referral to housing, and the number of households that do not receive a housing referral in 90 days and therefore need an additional assessment. The recipients of DVCE funding will also be required to attend regular trainings by the Indiana Coalition for Domestic Violence, and will also be asked to provide several deliverables, which you can see in our table. The key deliverable we are seeking for all of our partners through this process is first a partner agreement or MOU with at least one DV service provider to ensure survivors are connected to housing. We're going to be requesting this within the 90 days of receiving the award. And the second deliverable is that at the end of the award period, all of our DVCE subrecipients will be providing the Balanced Estate CE lead, which is our staff at IHCDA, a copy of the emergency transfer plan for survivors in their region. Emergency transfer plans are a really key component to serving survivors in our regions to ensure that they have access to housing even when they're actively fleeing domestic violence. And it was one of the key findings from our CE evaluation as a needed change in our system. The recommendations for the funding approvals are listed in Exhibit A with the listed service areas for each. You'll see there that the Region 4, which is the Lafayette Transitional Housing Agency, which receives a dedicated coordinated entry award, is ineligible for the awards, but that we are allocating $8,000 per region to all the other regions in the state. I'm happy to answer any questions before my recommendation.
Question. Found it interesting. Got their direct funding from HUD. So is it efficient for the other region to get direct funding from HUD? Better to go through this process? I mean, what's the best practice for various regions?
Yeah, that's
maximizing dollars.
Absolutely, that's a great question. The award that LTHC received was actually prior to the Indiana Balanced Estate selecting IHCDA as the coordinated entry lead. So now, because that agreement wasn't in place with the Balanced Estate, LTHC applied for their own award, and now we have an agreement with the COC. So we work in coordination with LTHC, but because we're now the COC CE lead, agency, we're going to be receiving funding in the future.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, I think we're ready to receive your resolution.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the board approve the funding request listed in Exhibit A for the DV Coordinated Entry Award, which will begin on February 1st of 2024. Listed in Exhibit A.
Resolution.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Staff be resolved that the board approve the COC funding request for DVC awards for the grant term beginning February 1st for the organizations listed.
And I just want to note it's beginning February 1st, 2024.
Yes, I apologize. I have a typo there. Yes, thank
just
you.
want to make sure we got the right year.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Tom McGowan, move for approval.
Mike Schotmeyer, move for second. Or second, motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will now call the roll. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Michael Neal,
Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer,
Aye.
Chad Gweiwe,
Aye.
Tom McGowan,
Aye.
Ann Valentine, aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, please welcome Rayanna Binder, who will present the IERA and IERA2 updates. Rayanna, did I pronounce your first name correctly? Welcome.
Good morning, members of the board. I am here to present you with an update on IERA1 and IERA2. Joining me this morning is Mr. Michael Fuller, the operational director. Start off this morning with a brief presentation and, of course, questions as we. Morning, we'll cover briefly updates on IERA, slight differences, look quickly at housing stability, wind up, and of course take questions as well. The IERA funding came from separate and distinct. IERA1 funding came from the Omnibus Funding Bill, Act of 2020. The remainder of the funding, IERA2.
Can I just for one moment, I want to make sure we all know this, that in case someone's just listening, IERA stands for?
Indiana Emergency.
Great, thank you.
Speaking of ERA1, which is ERA1, out the original allocation throughout the balance of the state IHC 137 of that million of that funding was transferred to various state municipalities. That left us with a, and we are proud to announce that less than one half of American Rescue Plan, our source of ERA2 and thus IRA2 funds. Total made available to the balance of the state, starting with 200 general funding, $7.4 from of that funding, dollars for house. So what is IERA2? IERA2 is a streamlined version of IERA. We provide up to 18, up to 2. First payment will cover past due rent. Second payment can be named, obligating a IRA1, 5 to 6 household. So we streamlined IERA2. So folks can currently apply for IERA2 through our partner network, INCA, on one or a navigator available. Households can receive second payment, incentivized counseling or ICP done after a household. Just so you folks have an idea per household that we are discussing. For an efficiency, we can pay up to $8.99 per household payment. Their first payment months would come $1,600. That's not including late fees or provided as well. The household completed housing counseling, that would be a general payment in excess of $5,000. Our 4-bedroom units, that goes all the way up to, we're talking about a 6. Housing stability. We have divided $15.1 million of those funds for family development counseling across the state of Indiana. This family development counseling is available. Not have to qualify for. Folks can sign up for rental counseling by calling 211 or by using the link in the provider. When folks work with a counselor, not only can they provide housing stability counseling services, they can also help them apply for housing choice vouchers, negotiate settlements with landlords, or any of the other activities. Family development counseling, as I mentioned, household specific, covers 12 focus areas. Household selects in conjunction with their housing counselor. Household. Our household stability providers have been doing a lot of great work in our communities. They have covered up to 550 applications assisted for Area 5, up to 70 additional payments for the Homeless Coalition of Southern Indiana, and up to 500 households. Legal services were provided through the Indiana Bar Foundation in excess of $13 million. These services went to generalized improvement in Indiana legal help. By going to Indiana legal help, Hoosiers can find by typing in or selecting their county or zip code, legal services and legal providers available. It also include folks can attend statewide, including virtual eviction diversion by several thousand. This is a map of the legal service providers who have been provided funding to add additional staff and participants. We have also deposited 150 kiosks across the state of Indiana, making Indiana help available without internet access. Kiosks are available in courthouses, non-for-profit government center. At the kiosks, they are able to access the Indiana legal help resources, talk to a legal navigator, access and complete filing report, also access TT. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see it in this, and you may not have it right now, but do we have data on how much utilization of the kiosks has happened?
Yes, we have current and ongoing data. We have several thousand Hoosiers that have accessed the kiosk.
Great to see.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions about our housing the network? Or
Getting to it.
no, that's actually a different set of data, but we'll talk about that in just a
Great.
moment.
Thanks.
All right. Briefly, we wanted to discuss windup with you today and also make reference to the chart that's in your material. The chart in your material every month, and it's updated on IHCDA's website. It includes households assisted per county. Mind you, that's not individuals, that is households. Those households might contain one individual or 5. That is the amount of rent paid out to the county and also the amount of utility. That chart you are looking at already to those Indiana. You will note that we have a smaller participation in Marion County with regard to the program, and we have not yet. Anybody has any questions about? Also brief. Goal of shifting down to actually provide rent and utility. If we are able to do that, we may then use the remaining. Close out the program.
Questions?
Exactly what you said. Only thing I'm understanding. Trying to.
Sure, absolutely.
If anyone applies, how?
There is an income threshold for the program, which is 80% AMI as set by the United States Treasury. Through housing counseling, Treasury has given us additional guidance that we can out income. So any Indiana renter can access the housing counseling. That does not necessarily mean that they would qualify to receive. Certainly receive.
For example, would you have to be late on payment, or even if you're paying on time, is assistance available for that as well, as long as you qualify under that?
Yes,
level?
sir. The statutory criteria are at or below.
That is
COVID
it.
impact.
That is really.
Yes. And so if you are current on your rent, if you are becoming a slow pay or someone who. Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay. Next, Executive Director Jacob. Discussion about the board committees.
Okay.
Basically, I think you're like, who's serving on what?
The refresher on the board committee meetings that we currently have. It might be good to kind of walk through as what committees we actually have. We do have a budget committee, which usually meets in the because our fiscal budget is on a calendar basis. So the budget committee works on IHCDA. To approve that, then by the budget committee last month in December. So we have that. We do have a vacancy on the budget committee. Have one opportunity here for a board member to participate on that if they like. The other meeting that we have is Development Fund Advisory Committee. The Development Fund, the state resources that we have, that we've created a revolving loan fund, basically provide gap financing for our housing developments, and primarily those are rental, but it could be home ownership as well. We also use the development fund for the Development Fund Advisory Committee. We actually are meeting today immediately following. We also have an opportunity here for a board member current board members on that are Andy Place and so then the third committee that we have is the audit committee. Currently going through our full audit right now. I think our plan is to have that taken to the audit committee in April with the full presentation. They're going pretty smooth with that. Our board members participate on the audit committee: Governor Crouch and Tom McGowan, and then Director of Indiana. We have a delegation committee. This came out of IHCDA's board of directors to delegate some of the executive director, specifically more designed on contracts, because there are quite a few contracts that come through the agencies. So rather than having to take these contracts to the board every month, delegated authority allows us to move more efficiently. It's delegated, and there are some threshold criteria. But that delegation is made up of Mike Schottmeyer, Tom McGowan, and then we have another committee that kind of dormant right now. That is our loan servicing for our single family programs. That committee really met really actively as we were going through the process of making if IHCDA wanted to continue to partner with U.S. Bank or a third-party loan servicer. Bank is currently, or to take that in-house. So that loan servicing was created. However, that decision of continuing our partnership with U.S. Bank is in place. And so right now, we really don't have a really active servicing committee because we really action items. Things are going really well with U.S. Bank on our. With that, I'll pause. I don't know if the board would like to have a conversation about the 2 vacancies that we currently have out for the next board meeting. Conversations around that, because we do have 2, and we do have a committee meeting today. That'll probably be.
Do we, as a board, sort of appoint folks to these committees, or do we rely on raising their hand?
We have traditionally been very successful with allowing board members.
Okay.
Jacob, I'm happy to volunteer for budget committee.
Excellent. Thank you. Time today to do the development.
Yes, fully understand.
Okay.
Yeah. So if folks do have any interest in the Development Fund Advisory Committee.
Great. Thank you. You'll let me know. You'll let us know, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Otherwise, I will turn it back to you for your executive update.
Okay. For the executive update, I got a few updates here to share with you. Number 1, yesterday was the point in time count. This is a national count of sheltered and unsheltered individuals across our state. IHCDA takes the lead on the balance of the state. So in 91, IHCDA works with the continuum of care, the 16 regions, to organize volunteers to do a count. Last year we had, I think, 65 counties count. This year I think we had an increase in that. I think we're somewhere around 70 counties this year that was participating out. So just want to compliment our team for the work that they did in organizing and continuing to engage our counties and continuum of care to count. They're pretty complex, and it's a challenge, obviously. Have probably one of the, yesterday was not, but usually it ends up being one of the colder days of the year to do that count. And so, and also yesterday, our team, we had a good group of that went up to Lake County to help. Understaffed up in Lake County, so our team went up there to help support the volunteers. Really proud of the going out and recognizing the need specifically for partners. That took place yesterday. We do have a couple of counties that are doing it today. But count the numbers, the assembling all the data and everything that takes place will be, usually we have those wrapped up and we present this information to HUD usually around June. That's when we can get everything finalized. This data is really critical for us to leverage sources, especially for some of our HUD programs. So coordination does have not only a better perspective on our homeless numbers across our state, but also it does allow us to competitive funding at the national level. How we use that. Anyway, I just want to thank you and all the volunteers that are out there. There's a lot of coordination, obviously with police departments, shelters, statewide efforts. The other piece I want to mention here real quick, I mentioned this at the last board meeting, but I have a little handout here for you. That's coming soon, but it's actually already. We have two new family homebuyer programs that one of them has been revised. Our first step program is our down payment assistance that we provide up to 6%. Big change here on this one is we went from a forgivable to now a payment. Usually the repayment would be paid to be done at the time of sale or refinance. Our first step program is here at 6% down payment assistance. We also have a step down, which is a new program where we can buy the interest rate down for home buyers. They can get a better rate. It doesn't come with a down payment assistance, but we can reduce step down program. One program that is coming soon is a next step, and that's it's a new program, refinance IHCDA mortgages. Now we currently don't offer a refi product, but we do know probably within some point in the near future that if mortgage rates continue to drop, that folks who have bought a home are have higher interest rates over the last couple of years. We'll be looking to refinance, and so we will be able to offer a refi product for our homeowners. That's coming probably by the end of the quarter of this year or maybe second quarter. Coming soon. Another program I want to give an update on just real quick. We did launch a request for proposals. If you remember last budget session from our state legislators, they allocated $5 million to IHCDA for a housing for youth aging out of foster care. So we've had some workshops, Department of Child Protective Services. So this program here, we released an RFP to work with 3 to 4 development teams to build some housing dedicated to youth that are aging out of foster care. Applications are due February 12th, so that process is currently in place. To seeing what kind of proposals we have, we've broken the state up into 3 regions to ensure that we have some geographic distribution funds, the north, the central, and the southern part of the state for these funds. So more to come on that, but we're really excited about the partnership that we have and some of the ideas that around housing and health foster care. Next week, I just want to give the board an update that Emily Krauser and I will be presenting to the Tax and Fiscal Policy Committee. We have a bill, Senate Bill 260, that includes some language to modernize or to clean up some of our individual development account and neighborhood assistance program. These are state programs that have a state tax credit. There's some out-of-date language and some things that we need to clarify to make it more current and representative of the partnership that we have with the Indiana Department of Revenue. And so I'll be testifying next Tuesday with Emily on the Senate Bill 260. So one of the big things is IDA credit, the savings account. So if people make a contribution into their savings account, it gets matched by IHCDA. Currently, we are capped at how much we can put into that savings account for an individual. Specifically, if they're looking to buy or they're wanting to start a business or buy a home, they can't maximize the amount that we would be able to contribute into that savings account because it's cap annual. What we're proposing is to move that cap. So if someone can save money over a 2-year period a little quicker, they would be able to receive that matching amount rather than having to wait several years before they could receive that match and then potentially buy a home. This is some that bill. So that one of the other pieces that we have that we launched this week was we released the draft of the 25 qualified allocation plan. QAP is the how we allocate the tax credits, both the 4%, which is the 9% credits. That also includes the Indiana Affordable Housing Tax Credit. So a draft went out on Monday of this week. I'll just give you a couple of highlights in terms of what we're proposing for the draft. We are having a public meeting coming up too as well. I think that's on February 2nd. But anyway, so some of the changes that we're proposing with this, and we actually also released a policy brief that kind of explains we did create a new priority, very specific intentional priority for this qualified allocation plan. Number one, it is just a 1-year qualified allocation plan. Normally we propose a 2-year QAP so that developers have time to continue to adapt based on our priorities, because some of these deals take a while together. But the big piece here that we're really proposing for this 1-year QAP is to focus on underserved rural and small communities that do not have an existing tax credit property in their community. In fact, there's about over, we have about over 700 towns across our state. We have over 500 of those cities and towns do not have enough property. So we're really trying to focus in on developing new construction. Some of these, what I would say, underserved areas in terms of having a tax credit development. And then some of these haven't had new construction. They may have had a tax credit property, but SDA property that was built in the 70s, and then there hasn't been, again, any new construction, any new line decades. That's where we're trying to really focus. Again, this is just a 1-year QA. That is the big priority on qualified allocation. 2 other little things that I shouldn't say they're little, but they're new that we're promoting. Number one is to look at these developments to encourage them to provide on-site child care or adult daycare centers. Development likely that can offer daycare for children. So those are 2. That's another piece that we're looking at. It's new this year for us to look for that mixed-use development. Obviously, aware that the need for child care services around like this would be an opportunity for us to develop the social space for that. The other one is to continue to promote emerging developers, women, minority, veteran, or persons with disability into the development space. Support that effort as well for first. So those are some of the changes that you see in this first draft of the QAP. The draft is like normal. We always have 2 drafts, so this is our first draft. We have our public meeting next Thursday, which is then we'll release a second draft based on comments and based on some tighten up a little bit, and then we'll have another second public meeting probably in March, or we take the qualified allocation to the. So that's kind of the process we're using qualified allocation. Happy to answer questions right now, but again, right now it's just draft format. So the next board meeting, I plan to have the 2023 statute IHCDA is required to produce diligently on that. It's almost wrapped up. Got a few. It should be ready to go probably within the next board meeting. Speaking of the next board meeting, that is February 22nd. here at IHCDA, right here. This room, we call this room the
8th
Capitol.
floor.
Yes, yeah, we call it the Capitol. All of our rooms are meeting rooms and things like that, and our space has some kind of community feel to it and a name reference. So this room we're calling the Capitol. So our meetings at IHCDA moving forward. That's
Yeah.
That's my update for.
Any questions from other board members? Is there any additional business to come before the board? Okay, excellent. Hearing no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Michael Neal, so moved.
Uh,
Mark Pascal, second.
all right, this meeting is adjourned as of 10:37 a.m.